Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. It is time to do another TBR video, so we are breaking out the Bookopoly board game and we're going to be setting an 8-book TBR for the month of August. Absolutely crazy that we're already in August. I don't even know really how to process that, but thinking about the month ahead, I really still am open to a lot of romance and fantasy. You will see in the book selecting clips that my fantasy TBR is overflowing at the moment, so we might have a little bit more focus on fantasy for this month ahead, and I do have quite a few books from my library that I can utilize as well. I don't know if this will be obvious to anyone else, but I do feel like I just need to get this off my chest. I just completed a cross-country road trip yesterday. I think I'm half awake right now. I don't even know if I'm fully present. If you're feeling the sleepy vibes as well, just let me through it. I need to film this today. It's already July 28th. I need to know what books I'm going to read for this month ahead. So we are going to do our best today, and I appreciate you sticking with me. But before we hop in, make sure to go down below, like, subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and let's go choose our August TBR. So here's our board game. I'm sitting at go, and I will be using 1 dice to get through the board. Time for our first roll. 3. 1, 2, 3. Keeping it fun for the summer, we're starting off with a romance pick. Okay guys, now it is time for the fun part where we actually get to pick our books. As I mentioned, the TBR is fully stacked. I like to keep my TBR as this top shelf, and I genuinely don't have enough space for my fantasy TBR right now, so we definitely want at least half of our book selections to be from our physical TBR. But beyond that, we don't want to forget about Kindle Unlimited and library picks as well. So on Kindle Unlimited, I do have a lot of fantasy selections saved, and most of these are first in a series as well. So I do have The Invisible Life of Addie, Larue, Spark of the Everflame, This Woven Kingdom, Vicious, To Bleed a Crystal Bloom, A Darker Shade of Magic, and Daughter of No Worlds. If I wanted a romance where I also get to continue on with the series that I've already started, I do have Gloves Off, Play Along, and The Air. And on Libby, I do have quite a few fantasy books as well. So maybe subconsciously, I am more of a fantasy mood. I do have The Night and the Moth that's ready to go. I really do want to get to that new release. I did recently buy A Reaper at the Gates. However, I do have the audiobook through my library. I have had Gifted and Talented for a while. However, I keep putting that one off. I feel like that's more of a fall/winter read. I do have Rose and Chains ready to go, which I really want to get to. And the final book that I think I'd be able to get to by the end of this month through my library is Sounds Like Love. So as you can see, we have a ton of options here. I think it's genuinely going to be hard just to narrow it down to 8 picks. So hopefully this month I have some time for some mood reading. But let's go ahead and choose book 1, which is simply a romance pick. I'm gonna keep it super short and sweet on book 1. I'm going to be picking up One Golden Summer by Carley Fortune. This is my book club pick for this month ahead, so I definitely know that I'm gonna have to get to this book regardless. I haven't read anything by Carley Fortune just quite yet, but I've only heard amazing raving reviews about this one so far. I'm very much intrigued to learn more about Alice and Charlie's love story. I've heard the summer vibes are amazing on this one because it does take place on a lake, and we follow our main character Alice, who comes back to Barry's Bay with her grandmother, and as they start settling in, their peace gets disrupted by Charlie Florence, and we get a little love story built between Alice and Charlie. I'm really excited for the vibes of this one. I do also think this cover is just simply stunning. So easily for the romance selection, I'm going to be reading One Golden Summer. Time for roll number 2. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Letter generator. This has given me some pretty bad picks in the past, so we'll see what we have in store for this next month. Now it is time for a letter generator, and I won't tell a lie, generally this prompt has done me super dirty before. I'll be spinning this wheel and it will give me the letter of either the start of a title or an author's first or last name. So let's see what we have in store today. P. Okay, I already have an author's last name in mind, but I don't have that as a physical copy. If we can't find anything on my physical TBR, maybe we can read something from my library. That being said, It looks like we do have 2 physical options to choose from. And funnily enough, I've heard that these books are very similar to one another. Promise Me Sunshine by Cari follows a woman that is grieving the loss of her best friend. And our MMC in this book, Miles, has gone through a similar grieving process, so he teams up with her to help her complete everything on her live again list. And I've heard that this relationship dynamic is very much a friends to lovers situation, which I do generally enjoy. Now, a bit similarly, Passion Project by Sperry, and within this one, our MMC is quite down and depressed and just kind of has lost her passion for life. So after her first date with Henry, he offers to help her uncover her passion for life. And every Saturday, they'll try a new activity. These activities take them across all of New York City, which I think is a similar premise to this one as well. I will just say that I had this on my TBR for last month, and I wasn't ever in the mood for this one. I knew that the grieving process might be a little bit difficult, a little bit heavy, and I just didn't feel like I had that in me last month. So while this has a similar premise, I do think Passion Project overall is a little bit less heavy. So I'm gonna try and give this one a go. I have heard that it's a really quick read. It's not very long at all. It's under 350 pages, and I do love an NYC setting. Time for roll number 3. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Another romance. I'm a little bit surprised. It's been a while since I've had a romance heavy month, so it'll be interesting to see what we pick up. Time for book 3, which is a romance, which is a little bit of a problem because I already have 2 romances on my TBR so far, and I'm not wanting this to be a romance only month. Since I've already chosen 2 physical reads, I think I'm gonna go ahead and look at Kindle and choose from the 3 that I mentioned earlier. So that would be Gloves Off by Stephanie Archer, Play Along by Liz Tomforde, and The Air by Ava Ronnie. If I had to think out of these what would be the most summery and the one that I'm generally the most excited for, easily that would be continuing on with the Windy City series and selecting Play Along. This follows Isaiah Rhodes, who we are heavily introduced to in book 3 in this series because he's the brother of Kai. He's an MLB player, and I'm pretty sure the premise of this is that after a drunken night in Vegas, he ends up married to one of the physical trainers on the team, Kennedy. These are usually a fun, spicy time, but I feel like I should get the sports baseball romance out of the way while it is still so warm outside. And then maybe in the future I could continue on with Stephanie Archer series because that is a hockey series, and that's not really giving peak summer to me. Time for our 4th roll. 2. 1, 2. I feel like there was another month that we had where we had both a letter and a number generator, but this can be a fun one to get through our physical TBR. For our 4th book pick, we got a number generator. Now this is going to end up being a physical TBR pick because generally how I like to do this is I count the number of books on my physical TBR, and once we input that, the number generated will point us to our physical TBR pick. So as of right now, I have 27 books on my physical TBR, which is quite crazy. This is definitely the highest I think I've ever had my physical TBR at. So we have 1 through 27, and we're going to hit generate. This means, with how I have my books organized, this means that I'm going to have the oldest book on my romance TBR, and I already know what that is. That is going to be 28 Summers by Hilderbrand. I have had this for well over a year at this point, and I keep putting it off because at first whenever I bought this, I just saw Hilderbrand and I said, oh, I like her stories, I like her writing style, and I didn't take the opportunity to read the back of the book. And it turns out that 28 Summers explores the agony and romance of a 1 weekend per year affair and the dramatic ways this relationship complicates and enriches their lives and the lives of the people they love. I really hate cheating in books. I definitely would not want to read about a long-term affair, specifically one that occurs over the course of 28 years, but it looks like the TBR gods have had enough of me and want to force me to read this one. The only good thing I can say about this is at least it is on Kindle Unlimited, so I don't have to read the physical copy. Generally, I can get through things much quicker on my Kindle. And if worse comes to worse, I can always DNF it. Already halfway done, time for roll 5. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. TBR jar. Lots of different prompts for this month. TBR jar is always a fun one. I have my TBR jar filled with about 30 prompts. It really can take us in a lot of different directions. Sometimes it'll be based off page length, year it was published, color of the cover. Lots of different options we can choose from, but let's see what we have today. This one. And this is a super easy one. It says, even page number. So really, I feel like this can kind of be a free pick, but we just have to have it end with an even number of pages. So as I mentioned before, I really need to get through some of these fantasy picks, and we've only selected romance so far. So let's stick to this side of my shelves. Hoping you can still see me over here. The first book that I'd ideally love to get to is Threadneedle by Carrie Thomas. I've had this book for well over a year and a half, so I just need to get this read. It is also on my 2025 TBR, but of course, this book ends on page 555. While it is an angel number, it's not going to fit this prompt. I would love to be able to continue on with the Ember in the Ashes quartet and getting to a Reaper at the Gates, since I just recently finished book 2. So let's take a look at where this one ends. 458. Fantastic. I'm not going to look any further. I really need to get a fantasy book on this TBR. I have this as an audiobook, so I will be able to get through this chunky book much quicker than usual. So let's go ahead and continue on with Reaper at the Gates. If you want my thoughts on this series, and specifically a lot of thoughts around book 2, go ahead and watch my most recent video, which was a 24-hour readathon. I read book 2 in the series, A Torch Against the Night, and talked about my overall thoughts much more in detail. Okay, we are getting through this. Time for rule 6. 2. 1, 2. Kindle Unlimited, one of my favorite prompts to receive. Thank goodness we have a Kindle Unlimited pick. I'm an absolute Kindle queen. It is currently my preferred way to read, especially at night. So looking at my Kindle Unlimited library right now, which is stacked, I do want to stick more towards fantasy, but a lot of the fantasy books that I talked about earlier are the start of a series, and I don't think I want to get into a full-blown series at the moment. But I do have another book which my bestie is going to freak out that I'm actually picking up, and that would be B.E. Schwab's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This has an incredible rating on Kindle. It has over 111,000 reviews and it's sitting at a 4.5. I've heard about this book so many times. We end up following Addie LaRue, and she kind of ends up selling her soul to the devil with the wish of living forever. However, the catch is that nobody ever remembers her. From there, we end up following hundreds of years of her life. And one day, I'm pretty sure she finally ends up meeting someone who can remember her. And once that happens, where does her life go from there? I've heard that this book is amazing, albeit I think a little bit heartbreaking as well. But I think this will be a good one to add, especially for this prompt. Get an amazing book that I've heard so many good things about checked off, while also not having to start a new series, which I feel like is a win. Time for rule number 7. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This should be an easy one. Physical TBR. We will definitely have lots of choices. With book 7 being a physical TBR pick, this does also feel like a free pick. I have so many different books to choose from right now, and I think I know exactly what I want to choose from today. I mentioned this earlier, Threadneedle by Carrie Thomas. I've not heard any reviews or seen anyone read this. However, just for my own mental sanity, I need to check this one off the physical TBR. I've just had it for way too long. This is a witchy story that takes place in London, and the back of the book says, Anna's aunt has always warned her of the dangers of magic and its deadly consequences. She counts down the days to the ceremony that will bind her magic forever. That is until she meets Effie and Addis. They open her eyes to a London she never knew existed, one filled with magical shops, a secret library, and clubs where revelers lose themselves in a haze of spells. But as Anna is swept deeper into this world, she begins to wonder if her aunt was right all along. Is her magic a gift or a curse? If I end up liking this, I think this would be like a great fall book recommendation just from how these vibes sound. What's kept me away is generally just the lack of reviews, and it is quite chunky. As we saw earlier, it is 555 pages, so this will be decently long, but I'm hoping that it's worth it. And finally, for rule number 8. 2. 1, 2. Perfect. Ending off on a fantasy selection. And our final prompt is a fantasy pick. I'm definitely happy we ended up rolling this because I was a little worried here in the first half of this TBR. And I just have so many good fantasy picks across Kindle Unlimited and through my library. My top 2 picks from my library that I'm so wanting to get to this month is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. This is a new release, which is a gothic romantasy, and it's a miscloaked tale of a young prophetess forced on an impossible quest with one knight whose future is beyond her sight. I've heard a ton of really good reviews for this one, so I am super excited to get to it. And the next book that I'm so excited for is Rose and Chains by Julie Soto. This is a Draco and Hermione fanfic rewritten, and I absolutely love Julie Soto's writing, but this is her introduction into the fantasy genre, which I'm so excited to see how she does. The blurb says, "The war is over, the dark forces have won, and the hero who was supposed to save them all is dead. Captured as her castle is overrun by the enemy, the world as Bryony Rosewood knows it is changed forever. Evil has won and her people face servitude, imprisonment, or death. Stripped of her magic and her freedom, Bryony and the other survivors are quickly sold off to the highest bidders in an auction, and as Evermore's princess, she fetches the highest price. After a fierce bidding war, she's sold to none other than Tovin, scion of a family known for their cruelty. Yet despite the horrors of her new world and the role she must learn to play within it, all is not lost. Help and hope may yet arise in the most unlikely of places." I don't know if you can tell about my excitement levels, but obviously I am going to be choosing Rose and Chains. I just love this author way too much to delay this any longer. I really hope I'll have time to get to The Night and the Moth later on in this month, but I gotta stick true to what my heart is telling me on this. So we will be adding Rose and Chains by Julie Soto to the August TBR. And that concludes the August TBR video. I'm really excited for what this month has in store. It ended up being a perfect 50-50 split between romance and fantasy, which is kind of exactly what I wanted it to be. Let's go ahead and do a rapid fire review of the 8 books I selected. First romance pick was One Golden Summer by Carley Fortune. From the letter generator, I chose Passion Project by London Sperry. For the next romance pick, through Kindle Unlimited, I'm going to read Play Along by Liz Tomforde. From there, the number generator did us absolutely dirty, and I'm going to be reading 28 Summers by Elin Hilderbrand. From the TBR jar with an even number of pages, I'm going to be reading A Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. For another Kindle Unlimited pick, I'm going to be reading The Invisible Life of Addie larue by V.E. Shwab. From my physical TBR, I'm going to be reading the oldest book that I have on my physical TBR, which is Threadneedle by Cari. And finally, for a fantasy pick, I'm going to be choosing Rose and Chains by Julie Soto. I am really excited to get to a lot of these books. There's really only one book that I'm not excited about, so I'm hoping that this will be another successful month with our monthly TBRs. But for now, this is where I would love you and leave you, so thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure to go down below, like, subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye guys!